This video is brought to you by Brilliant. Hello friends, my name is JJ, and I just want to start by saying that as an openly gay man, I am extremely lucky to live here in Vancouver. Even within my own lifetime, I have witnessed an enormous decline in the social acceptability of overt homophobia in my community, to say nothing of homophobic violence, and that is definitely something that a lot of gay people elsewhere in this world cannot say with nearly the same level of confidence. But that being said, even in a tolerant society, being a sexual minority still means being a minority, and thus living a life in which being understood and accepted by the majority will often be an uphill battle. And that means even when you're not facing open, ugly prejudice, life as a gay person can still be quite irritating at times due to an ongoing lack of understanding many otherwise well-meaning people have towards gays. In fact, somewhat paradoxically, I dare say that the rise of greater social tolerance towards gays, or at the very least the expectation of that sort of tolerance, has probably helped enable some of the obnoxious behavior directed at gay people I want to talk about today. So I was recently on the receiving end of one of my biggest pet peeves as far as this kind of stuff goes, namely citing a gay person's gayness as the single most relevant and important thing about them. As you guys know, I have been quite active in opposing a piece of legislation that has been making its way through the Canadian Parliament, Bill C-11. I've talked about it a billion times. And I was recently interviewed by the Canadian Press, one of this country's major news syndicates, about my efforts. And in the ensuing story, here is how they identified me on first mention. JJ McCullough, an LGBTQ content creator from Vancouver. I mean, on one level, yeah, this is literally true. I am a content creator who is LGBTQ. But is this really the most relevant adjective that readers need to understand who I am? The video you are watching right now is actually one of the very few I've ever made in which I discuss LGBT issues. Viewers are sometimes surprised to learn that I'm gay, just because it doesn't often come up on my channel. The fact that I'm 38 years old, or middle class, or even white is probably more useful information to an uninformed reader trying to get a sense of what kind of creator I am. But to a certain sort of person, I guess the fact that I'm gay is the most noteworthy thing about me. The thing that jumps to the top of the hierarchy of relevant JJ facts, because to them, gay people are still this very rare and exotic class of creature, meaning it is always very exciting and newsworthy whenever a gay person does anything. It's not just me, of course. Lots of public figures wind up getting defined by their sexuality in a similar way. Before anything else, their reputation is being the gay actor, or the gay musician, or the gay newsman, or the gay CEO, or whatever. Even worse is when you get compared to other gay people who are in a sort of vaguely similar field to you, but with whom you otherwise have very little in common other than the fact that you're also gay. So for example, I have had people compare me to Dave Rubin or even Milo Yiannopoulos, two men with whom I feel I have very little meaningful overlap, beyond the fact that we are gay guys who have opinions on things, I guess. But if you think of people as being primarily defined by their sexuality, then analyzing the careers of people in a way that begins with their LGBT status and working down from there makes perfect sense, I guess. I mean, I do think it is good when we acknowledge members of minority groups whose very existence represents social progress, those who have accomplished things that people like them would have never been permitted to achieve a generation ago. But there definitely comes a point where the existence of that social progress is now pretty obvious to everyone, and fixating on somebody's minority status as like the fact about them starts to cross the line from being supportive and celebratory to just reductive and condescending. And speaking of condescension, here is annoying thing number 2, unsolicited approval of gay relationships. But before we get to that, I hope you will permit me to share a brief word from today's sponsor, Brilliant. Hello friends, so today's sponsor is indeed Brilliant, the very popular math and science education website that you can visit today at brilliant.org. And once you get there, you will see that it is home to thousands of fun, interactive lessons on basically every scientific or mathematical principle you could possibly hope to learn. Now, I know that here on this channel, we talk mostly about social studies type things, history and culture and politics politics and contemporary social debates like the one we're talking about today. So you might be thinking, oh, science and math, that boring stuff is not relevant to my interests. But that's where you're wrong. Because the intersection of science and math with social cultural issues is actually huge, and if you're not naturally interested in these topics, a site like Brilliant can be a very useful way to help fill the gaps in your knowledge. For example, the future of energy is a huge topic in politics these days, but how much do you know about the fundamentals of how electricity is even produced? Brilliant has a course on that you might want to give a try. Or how about statistics? People throw around stats in every argument about everything these days, but do you know how to tell a good stat from a bad stat? Brilliant has a course that can teach you that too. Brilliant courses are fun and very visual, with nice graphics and plenty of interactive parts. They are designed for busy people with the intent of helping you gradually accumulate useful knowledge in as little as 15 minutes a day. If you're interested in taking advantage of everything Brilliant has to offer, why not head over to brilliant.org/JJ for a full 30-day free trial. The first 200 of you who sign up will get 20% off their annual subscription cost as well. Brilliant, the best way to learn. So, here is something that has happened to me a few times that I think many of my gay viewers will be able to relate to. I have been out on a date or out with somebody that I'm seeing, and some stranger comes up to me and congratulates me for what I'm doing. Like, here is a specific example. A while ago, I was on a first date with some guy, and I guess things were going well because we were holding hands as we were walking together through the park. And this random middle-aged woman comes up to us at one point and she is like, "I just wanted to say that I think what you two are doing is just great. I can tell you guys are just so much in love and I think that's wonderful." Now, cringe as that sounds, I have repeatedly been on the receiving end of comments very much like that one many times over the years. Some people apparently think I crave strangers' approval of my relationship, which might not even be a relationship in the first place. Obviously, I understand what is motivating this, and obviously it comes from a good place. People are aware that there was a time in which showing any sort of same-sex affection in public would be extremely risky behavior, and by going out of their way to express that they're okay with what they're seeing, they want to demonstrate how far society has come. But I don't think the opposite of overt prejudice has to be overt approval. I frankly think it is far more reflective of social progress when once controversial things become so common that they are not explicitly remarked upon anymore. But, you know, when people go out of their way to ostentatiously declare that they are cool with gay people doing some gay thing in public, I think we all know that it's really more about them. They are seeking to broadcast their own pride and their own personal sense of enlightenment, which is a good thing to have, but hey, maybe keep it to yourself, eh? All right, and the third obnoxious thing I want to talk about is the relentless sexualizing of all same-sex relationships a gay person has. What I am talking about here is this idea that if a gay man is friends with another man, or a gay woman is friends with another woman, then they must surely be in love with them and want to have sex with them. Or, from the other perspective, if a straight man or woman is close friends with a gay person of the same sex, then surely that person must actually be gay as well, or is at least in the process of turning gay. Gossip of this sort is something that I have personally often been on the receiving end of whenever I have a close friendship with a straight man. When I was younger, I noticed it tended to be something that worried some of my male friends' parents in particular. Like, you sure are spending a lot of time around that gay guy JJ. People are gonna start asking questions. So the idea that gay people have some sort of out-of-control predatory lust is of course a very old stereotype. But a version of this has also survived and thrived in more modern times, where it is often weirdly integrated into a form of progressive tolerance. So maybe the gay friend isn't necessarily turning his friend gay per se, maybe he's just helping him come out. And isn't that nice? Oh, what a nice thing you're doing, helping him out like that. Whatever narrative people dream up, I really hate this way of thinking because I see it as such a big obstacle to building meaningful friendships among diverse peoples, and in turn, an obstacle to building meaningful, diverse communities more broadly. I don't think it is good when gay people only have gay friends or straight people only have straight friends, but if people insist on relentlessly sexualizing friendships that transcend sexual groups, then people will be rationally nervous about having those sorts of friendships. And like I said, it's not just about stamping out homophobia either. Like, yes, some straight people will clearly find it offensive if people think that they're gay, but I think that when you sexualize a friendship, you're also implying a lot of negative things about what is motivating that relationship. Like, Billy's only friends with Peter because Peter's hot, as opposed to because Billy and Peter have a lot in common or respect each other at some deep personal level. It's elevating sex as the presumed main motive for why anyone does anything in life, which I think is a broader problem in our culture overall these days. Now, is it possible a gay person can have a crush on a friend of the same sex? Sure, of course, anyone can be attracted to anyone. But I do think in general that most gay people are capable of grasping the concept of when someone is romantically or sexually unavailable. I think that gay people are often especially attuned to this, in fact, just because historically, one of the worst, most dangerous things you could do as a gay is come on to a straight person who is not interested. But even then, I don't want to imply that a gay person being friends with a straight person somehow requires this deep act of willpower to avoid sexualizing the relationship. A lot of times you just never think of them that way, in the same way you don't think about a lot of people in your life in a sexual way. I guess a lot of what I'm saying could also apply to straight friends of the opposite sex, which is also something that society tends to unfairly stigmatize and sexualize and can foster enormous jealousy within straight relationships. But that said, I do think that male-male or female-female friendships are uniquely important things to protect, just because they tend to be the default form of friendship for most people. So when it comes to gay or lesbian people wanting friends of the same sex, I think we should be very careful in how we talk about these relationships, just because I think that same-sex friendships are some of the most important relationships any of us will ever have, which makes it cruel or even traumatizing to gaslight or pathologize gay people who pursue this very basic human need. So yeah, those are a couple of my personal annoyances when it comes to being a gay man living in the year 2023. I know I have a lot of LGBTQ people in my audience, so I would be very keen to hear from you guys about what kind of somewhat less common pet peeves you have about how other people or the culture at large treats you in the 21st century. Thank you so much for watching, and I will see you next week.